At 6:02 a.m., 3 men in matching navy polos were standing in my garage, holding a laminated sheet and calling it an administrative entry order by 7:00 p.m. The HOA president who sent them was holding a microphone with a deputy, asking her to turn around and place her wrists together. And if that sounds fast, it was. But the fuse had been burning for weeks. My name is Evan Cole. I moved into Cedar Hollow Point outside Phoenix to make furniture and mind my business. Sunshine on the driveway, a garage big enough for adjointer neighbors who wave and keep it moving. You know what I mean. I wasn't looking for a fight. I thought rules were rules, and people were reasonable. Until I met Brenda Carlisle in a salmon blazer with a stack of papers flagged like a crime scene. Cole, we need to chat about your situation, she said, and that word, situation, landed like a ticket tucked under a wiper. She flipped through her packet and mentioned signage violations, and garage exposure, and odor migration, and a flag bracket projecting past 35 degrees. Section 9-2, if you're into bedtime horror. Then handed me a 250 courtesy fine. And yeah, that happened. I kept it calm because that's my default. Turned off, the sander told her I'd keep the door half down and store lumber out of sight. She smiled, the kind of tight smile that doesn't warm a room, and said they appreciated my cooperations. Then at 8:00 a.m., the next morning, the first real fine showed up, $300 for commercial indicators, because a delivery truck dropped off clamps, then $400 for visual clutter, because a broom leaned where a broom leans, then $200 for excessive lawn height, with a photo that looked suspiciously like the tape measure was tilted. And by day 3, my gate app was temporarily suspended for security review. So I sat in the visitor lane while Brenda's voice came over the intercom, saying guest lane only. For now, Mr. Cole, compliance matters are pending, and I answered. You mean my fines, and heard the smile in her pause. Your choices, she said. That's when the switch flipped, and the version of me who alphabetizes drill bits came out to play. I mounted a small camera under the eave above the garage, set it to archive to the cloud. Started a spreadsheet because if they loved records, I could love them harder. And you might think that's petty, but I've learned petty is just organized when it's pointed at the truth. A few nights later, I met June Porter, retired teacher kind, eyes a dachshund with a name longer than the dog. She admired the walnut tabletop like she meant it, and slid a sticky note across the grain that said, ask for financials, talk to Caleb. And just like that, I met Caleb Brooks, treasurer, with hands that shook even when empty, under the tennis court pavilion, where the lights hum. Like it's 1998. He didn't order coffee and didn't sit, just said, invoices went to Sentinel. Community services. No bids. No vote. Brenda marked them emergency. Then money moved from Sentinel to Carlisle. Family holdings. I can't prove intent, but I can show movement. And he texted a shared folder that looked like it was printed by a guilty conscience at midnight. Spreadsheets transfers a document called Cedar Hollow Compliance Ladder, with tidy arrows that went warning, fine, surveillance patrol, administrative visit, lien. The next Tuesday at 6:02 a.m., the administrative visit arrived 3 guys in polos with badges that said, Neighborhood Safety. Their laminated order had a crooked seal and the city name spelled like someone guessed. The lead lowered his voice to official and said, We need to inspect hazardous materials. And I held up my phone, where the red RX light could see their pores, and asked for department and ID numbers. He glanced at his wrist, where there was nothing to glance at, and muttered, "Compliance 147. So I hit speaker and called city code. "Hi, Nina Patel," came the voice, steady and awake. "We don't have a 147, and we don't do administrative entries without a warrant. If someone is pretending to be us, call 911. And the short guy's radio coughed one puff of static like a dying fly. He told me interfering was a felony, and I told him that sentence always sounds better from someone with jurisdiction. They backed out of my garage in reverse formation, like a circus tent collapsing. I followed them to the curb, waved at my Eve camera. "Have a nice day, gentlemen," because I am polite, even when I'm furious. 48 hours later, my kitchen looked like a TV show, where string runs between index cards. I pinned dates to fines, to videos, to Caleb's invoices. I clipped audio from a board huddle Caleb had recorded, where Brenda's voice said clear as the sky, "If he calls the city, we say he threatened to volunteer. If he keeps quiet, we escalate. Either way." He moves, and I don't know what you call the feeling when you hear the exact shape of the thing you've been living. But it clicks. It makes you stop choosing between paranoia and denial. You just call it what it is. June told me there was a way to force an open meeting. A member petition clause nobody uses because bullies count on silence, 30 signatures, and they have to face daylight. So I printed forms and knocked doors. I'm Evan at 31-149. I'm not selling anything. I have footage of fake officers trying to enter my garage, and documents that suggest your dues paid a security company that wires money into our president's family. LLC, if I'm wrong. We'll know together. If I'm right, we'll fix it together. I just want sunlight. And the neighborhood did what neighborhoods do. Half the people signed fast. Some folded their arms and said, "Property values need protecting." One guy told me, if I don't like rules, I should buy acreage. And I told him I do like rules. Real ones. I just don't like fake authority wearing a lanyard he didn't sign. But by morning I had 42 signatures, which is more than 30, and plenty of courage. The emergency meeting felt like a school auditorium on election night, phones out at chest height, because nobody trusts official minutes anymore. Brenda sat at a long table with board members flanking her, like wings. Dove-gray suit face that said, "This is beneath me." Lucas Redding from Sentinel leaned in. A chair, like gravity, was optional. Brenda tried to open with landscaping updates and pool reminders. I stood and said, "Motion to address impersonation, unauthorized spending, and retaliation." First, someone seconded, then 10 more people. Seconded, and even the HOA attorney looked like he wanted to switch careers. "We can address that," he said, after public comment, and June, bless June, said no. And the silence felt like the whole room. Inhaled. "Cole, you have 3 minutes," Brenda said, and I didn't need 3. I tapped a remote and played the video of the fake inspection. Nina Patel stood from an aisle seat, resident tonight city badge tomorrow, and said for the record, "Those were not city staff, and her department doesn't do surprise entries." A low sound rolled through the room. I clicked to invoices paid to Sentinel from our reserves with no vote, then the wire transfers to Carlisle family. Holdings, dates lined up like fence posts. You could follow with your fingertip, and then I played the audio of Brenda's plan. In her own voice, if he calls the city, we say he threatened to volunteer. If he keeps quiet, we escalate. Either way, he moves, and you could feel a neighborhood decide who it is. Brenda grabbed the mic and tried for calm. "This is out of context. Security was necessary. We acted in the interest of families. And I asked whose families. And if it was truly safety, why forge a badge? And if it was community, why pay your boyfriend from our reserves? And if it was about values, why build a ladder designed to shake people until they sell? Lucas smirked and said, "Everyone uses third-party security. Welcome to the suburbs." And that's when 2 deputies walked in, like they had been waiting in the hallway for the scene to finish. "We're looking for Brenda Carlisle," the taller one said. Brenda started with the phrase only an HOA president could love. "This is a private meeting," and he nodded. "Yes, ma'am, please stand." And you could hear the metal click from the back row. Nobody cheered. Nobody clapped. We just watched the room exhale as the gavel sat there without a hand to hold it. Here's the part people argue about. Afterward, the board froze disbursements and called a forensic audit. Lucas slipped out a side door like smoke neighbors. I barely knew touched my shoulder and said thanks. Without making it a parade, then the next morning a board member emailed me with the subject line, "Context," and told me they believed they were protecting property values, that the Facebook group had made my open garage door into a threat, that I had embarrassed them in public, and that was on me. And I read it twice, because shame has a way of calling itself context. I put the note in a folder named Receipts, and went back to sanding because life continues, even when the mask falls. Weeks later, there were new elections. Caleb ran and won because quiet courage finally counted the city. Nina in plain clothes, no microphone, helped us mirror their standards instead of someone's mood. Sentinel lost its contract and its invoices. The audit read like a mystery, where the butler did it. And the butler's last name was Carlisle. Some folks moved away because the story broke their favorite myth. Others stayed and brought pies to the meeting, where we rewrote Section 9-2. So a flag bracket could just be a flag bracket. And me, I labeled the thumb drive Sunlight and kept the camera up, not as a threat, but as a reminder that truth likes witnesses. A week after the arrest, I got a letter with no return address, an apology written in a careful hand that admitted confusing order with control and safety, with obedience and community with compliance. No signature didn't need one, and I put it next to the warranty for my table saw, because I don't want to be the main character in anyone else's redemption. I just want to work with the door up when the air is good, and wave at neighbors without wondering who's filming through tinted glass. If you've listened this far, thank you for the time and the patience, and if you've ever been fined into silence or told your life is dangerous to someone's comfort, look up. A comment and tell me where you're watching from. Was Brenda the problem, or was the system built to make people like Brenda inevitable do HOAs protect or punish? Have you seen fake authority used to scare regular folks? Hit. Like if you think sunlight beats secrecy, subscribe. If you want more true stories of everyday people learning the hard way, that power should be accountable, and tell me in the comments.